Hi everyone, it's Rax. Season 4 released about 12 hours ago, and my Necro is already level 100. We got through on the hardcore SSF, still alive, which is kind of surprising because they took out all the cheat deaths in the game. I wasn't sure we were going to be able to do that. But I wanted to make my State of Diablo video because I've experienced pretty much all of the systems. And of course, I know about the pit and masterworking and the changes from not only the PTR, but the patch notes and then developer interviews. And this is a video that I've been looking forward to making for a long time. A video where, in general, I'm going to be positive toward the game because Blizzard has done a lot of things right here. If you bought Diablo earlier on and you didn't like it and you uninstalled it, or you took a big break, now might be a good time to reinstall it and give it a try. Tons of people were having a lot of fun. So let's get into it. We're going to start off with the good things, which for the first time ever outnumber the bad things. The first thing is the items. The items are just way better. They're better in every way. First of all, they have meaningful, easy to understand affixes. Intelligence, armor, all res, cold res. You get the idea? They cleaned up a lot of the clutter in the game, and now it's much more accessible for everybody. Less items drop, which means you do a nightmare dungeon, and then you can do another nightmare dungeon, and sometimes you can even do a third nightmare dungeon before your inventory is full, and then you have to do something about it. And then there's a ton of different crafting things. Instead of just going to the blacksmith and getting, a +5 or whatever, and there's no thinking involved, now you have to actually temper and make some decisions. Then you have to masterwork and see how that turned out and see if you want to reset it or not. It's much more cerebral, but in a good way. It's accessible for everybody. It's not hard to understand. It's a very good starting point for their item rework. I think in general it went very well. Then there's Helltide. Now, Helltide, if I'm being honest with you, I already thought it was one of their better game modes. They've iterated on it multiple times. I was actually kind of surprised that they iterated on Helltide again, because I thought they would focus on all the stuff that's worse. But the things that they're doing for Helltide, they just work. So first of all, it's the new leveling method. And running around doing this Helltide versus going to the dopamine tunnels is way better. The density is way higher. You actually just feel like you're playing a video game instead of walking around in a barren wasteland looking for a fight. They really bring the fight to you, and they do that with new events that they've made. There's a new boss. You get ambushed all the time. There were a couple of times I was just trying to get out of a fight, trying to disengage in hardcore. There's no cheat deaths anymore, and I just couldn't get away. But I was in the back of my mind thinking to myself, this is actually cool. This is actually a hellish area that is punishing. And then they have the threat levels, which build the ambushes, which one thing that I thought was a little bit better, I don't know if they changed this from the PTR or not, but it felt like they did, is when you would aggro like the Hellborns, the super like deadly mobs, they kept killing me in the PTR. I could never survive it. Now when they spawn, you have an opportunity to get away from them right when they spawn, and they won't really chase you. So it's a way for you to kind of throw away the mechanic if you want to try to stay alive. That was helpful. So if that was a conscious change that they made, I noticed that, and that made it a lot better. So putting it in the lower difficulties and letting us level like this was pretty much unanimously more fun for everybody. Another thing that I think really worked is the Necromancer changes. Now, minions aren't perfect. We'll get to this later, but this is what I would like to see out of Blizzard going forward. When you're going to take the time to look at a class and look at a fantasy and you're trying to make it better, I would much rather you be brave and potentially overshoot it than to be very, very safe and give us some watered down piece of crap. The people who are looking forward to playing this, if it's not great, are going to be like, wow, this is Blizzard's update for Necro Minions. This sucks. And they're going to leave. So the penalty for overshooting it is minor, and the penalty for undershooting it, I would say, is great. So this feels pretty good. I mean, it's pretty much the best build in the game right now, unless somebody discovers something crazy later on in the season. But it's not like completely unbelievable. It's not like Ball Lightning was, for example. So just in general, however the team worked on this and landed on doing something like this. This is something similar that I would like to see going forward when you look at the class updates. The greater affixes work very well. It gives you something to chase, but it's not just something to chase. When I have an inventory full of items like this, let's say I just got back from a nightmare dungeon, and this is what my inventory looks like. Let's say every single item does not have this little symbol, except this one weapon. I instantly know this is the one I'm going to save. And then I just go salvage everything else and I just move on along my way. It serves as like a pseudo loot filter, because in the end game, what you're chasing is you want every piece of gear to have a greater affix. You can take one look at my character and see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 greater affixes. So you can say I'm kind of like halfway there to getting a halfway decent necro. It works for now. I'm going to have feedback on it later, but yeah, I like the idea of greater affixes, and I like the way that it kind of serves as a loot filter to where I'm not sitting there sifting through every single item. I'm looking for that little dot. I have 2 of them. I salvage everything else, and I move on. The fact that we have the pit and a masterworking endgame system. The pit is just essentially greater ifs copied and moved forward. Masterworking is essentially just hitting upgrade 12 times. It's nothing super new and fresh, but at least they are actual endgame systems. And the reason why I call them that is because the pit level 150 is the same level as Abattoir of Zir 25, which was insanely hard, even with the super overpowered glyph. And the overpowered glyph is gone. And in general, the power level of the builds and the bugs have brought, again, the overall power level down. So if you clear pit 200, the first question I would have is, what kind of bug or exploit did you have? Because that seems pretty crazy with the scaling. So at least you have given us a true challenge and something to hunt for in the end game. My kind of gripe with Uber Uniques is they are, in a lot of cases, better than the other items, but when I think of like an Uber Unique in Diablo 4, and I compare it to like a Mage Blood or a Headhunter in Path of Exile, they're not really comparable. I guess this is a conversation for another day, but I wish they would make some of the Uber Uniques, or maybe it's not even an Uber Unique. Maybe it's like a different item class, like an artifact or something. I wish they would make them even more godly. And you wouldn't even like expect to get one in the season, but if you do get one in the season, you just feel like a god. I wish they would do something like that, because when I got the Mage Blood or the Headhunter in PoE, it was a dopamine hit that you can't really replicate anywhere else. So, okay, so the Codex of Power is great. It's just awesome. I'm just salvaging everything, and when I need it, I go to the Codex. It's got my little search function. Love it. I loved everything about it. They condensed the herbs and the gems. Real easy to get exactly what you need and craft your stuff. Thought that was a big win. The camera zooms out. A lot of people say that the camera doesn't really zoom out. I don't think it zooms out in town. It zooms out a little bit. I mean, it's better than nothing. I'd take a further camera, but thanks for letting us zoom out. There's ray tracing in the game now. That looks really nice. Ray tracing is turned on right now. So the game looks beautiful. By the way, I'm in town. Watch what I'm about to do. This is crazy. Watch this. I'm sprinting on my horse in town. I don't even think I saw this in the patch notes. If this was in the patch notes, I didn't see it. The theory was Blizzard wouldn't let us sprint in town because then we wouldn't be able to see other people's paid cosmetics. I don't know if that was true or not. That was like the leading theory. But anyway, now we can sprint in town on our horse. I've been asking for this since I think since the alpha of the game. So thank you. The increased Glyph XP, I think, was needed. So I'm level 100 and my glyphs are 18, 18, 18, 18, 17, 17. Okay. Yeah, the highest level is 21 if you didn't know, but the important inflection point is 15. So I'm getting there at 18s and 17s. So the 25% increase seems about right. It's almost at 21 for an entire build. You got to do a little bit extra work to get it to 21, but you're well above 15. Seems like a pretty good target. Not sure if Blizzard thought of it that way, but that's what I approach it, like mathematically, and it seems to make sense where it landed. So I think that was a good change. Early on in the game, you can now get uniques. They didn't help me at all, but I like that they were dropping. And people in my chat were genuinely excited. I got this unique. I got that unique. I can't believe I got it this early. You won't believe where I got this unique from. It's crazy. People were really excited about it. This is kind of a bad example, but in a lot of the other towns, they have reorganized where all the vendors are, and they put them really close to where everything is. Again, another thing we've been begging for since the alpha. And they say, no, 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 we want these towns to be big and majestic like Ironforge and Orgrimmar, and you're going to run everywhere. Bro, this is an ARPG. You are not letting me blast, and that is making me mad. Okay, so now we can blast because everything is right here in this nice little circle. Thank you. All right, what else do we have? So there's a salvage all button now, and when this says all items, it is not joking. Anything in your inventory will be salvaged unless you've marked it as a favorite. Everything, including uniques. I love this because it makes running through the game so much easier. I'm kind of surprised that Blizzard implemented it because I thought they would never implement a button that would also just insta salvage uniques. But I'm glad that they did it this way. Although I'm sure some people are going to accidentally click it and lose like something super important to them. One thing that I absolutely love are these new elixirs. The elixir of holy bolts. It makes you. It's kind of like you have what are those shooty, thorny pylons called that just shoot stuff everywhere as you fight. This just essentially turns yourself and all your minions into that. And so you're just killing everything. And also the elixir of momentum. I love these things. They do more of this stuff. That's super cool. In dungeons, when you're running your nightmare dungeons, all the events now take 0.75 seconds on whether you pick up something, put it on a pedestal, free a prisoner. And it used to be like 2 seconds. So it's a huge improvement. By the way, you know that the middle event with the 2 levers that you have to push that have the spikes coming up? That's not 0.75 seconds. So that needs to be fixed. I still wish it was lower. I asked them to lower it again. They said they'd think about it. That probably means no, but I asked anyway. But 0.75 feels a hell of a lot better than 2 seconds. Another thing that I really like that they changed is hardcore is now hardcore. You didn't know? They took out the cheat deaths in the game. And they didn't just take out the cheat deaths in the skill tree, they also took away the cheat death potion. Can't make it anymore. And so people actually died. Right? We won't name any names, but people actually died. Multiple people died just playing the game. I almost died multiple times. Finally, hardcore is hardcore. Thank you. Another really nice thing that they changed, and again, this is kind of a nice thing about, let's say, like Path of Exile and Diablo 2, is when you're running maps or when you're doing Mephisto runs or Pindle runs, whatever you're doing, Bale runs, the cow level. By the way, when are we getting the cow level in Diablo 4? You have an opportunity at any moment to get really godly stuff. That's the cool thing about it. The game just can't be target farming from a boss ladder to get cool stuff. So I didn't do any boss farming whatsoever, and I have all of these materials that I got randomly, just playing the game how I wanted to play. I have a nice little set of materials that's kind of starting me on that boss ladder without me having to like target farm something. I think Blizzard has to balance this in their game going forward with all the stuff. It can't. Some things can be specific farm, but not everything can be like that. We need to have the opportunity when we're doing Helltide or when we're doing Nightmare Dungeons or when we're doing the Pit to have something really awesome drop that we might actually need. I felt like that was happening much more now with some of the changes that they made. Another change that a lot of people are liking, I mean, it doesn't really impact me because I usually play hardcore SSF, is they've opened up the trade a lot more. You can trade a lot more things. You can trade, I believe you can trade everything in the game except Uber Uniques and like materials, and can't trade anything that you've crafted on, I believe, something like that. So they've opened up the trade at the legendaries, as I understand it. And people were saying that they really like that. So opening up the trade seems to be a win. And the final win we'll talk about is the increased Obol count. It used to be 1,000. Now I think it's 2,500 or something. I only got capped on Obols once on 1 to 100. So that was pretty nice. So that was a list of 20 things that I really liked about what they did. Now let's talk about some things that need some improvement. And these aren't in any particular order. And some of these are not like super big problems. And some of them might just need minor tweaks, or maybe, I don't know, maybe I just need to get good and Blizzard doesn't need to change any of them. Okay, let's start with something. Gold. Okay, one thing that I heard like from everybody, leveling up when you get into like World Tier 4 is you are going to be starved for gold. Now, before anybody says anything, I understand there's two solutions already in the game for this problem. One, instead of salvaging your gear, you can vendor it. Fine. You can sell it for gold over here at this weapon dude. By the way, another thing that needs improvement, there is no sell all button. Then people will say, you can sell it all if you mark it all as junk and then sell it one time and they all sell. But then I have to go through and mark it all as junk. We need a sell all button. That's if gold is going to continue being a problem, we would need a sell all button. So there's two ways to solve it. First of all, you can sell your gear instead of salvaging it. That kind of feels bad, but it's an option. Another thing you can do is you can just go do whispers, right? Go do whispers. You turn it in, you get like 4 million gold per turn in, and that's how you solve it, Rax. Okay, fine. I understand that, but I don't want to do that. What I want to do is I want to do my Nightmare Dungeons. My glyphs aren't even, I'm 100. My glyphs aren't even 21. I did them the whole time. So even all the Nightmare Dungeons that I did, it still wasn't enough. And I had so low gold, it was so low that I wasn't even really wanting to engage with the crafting systems that Blizzard had on my 1 to 100 experience. If I'm so poor that I can't engage with this unless I go out of my way to do an activity that I don't want to do, I can't even do basic re-rolls on my gear, I would say that the amount of gold that you were giving me in Nightmare Dungeons is a little bit too low. So that would be my feedback. A lot of people felt the same way. A lot of people were saying when they got further into the game, I can't believe how broke I am. It's like you're a college kid and you know you're paying your tuition and you're eating ramen noodles every night. That's what it felt like. So here's one cool thing about it. I'm glad that gold is a scarce resource. No, I don't want Blizzard to just give us everything. If anything, even some of the casual people in my chat said, "You want to know, Rax? Yeah, this season is actually pretty easy, especially the Capstone stuff." We're going to talk about that in a second. I don't want them to just give us everything, but here's my point of feedback. Take a look at the gold, especially in World Tier 4. Yes, you can go do the Tree of Whispers, but what if I don't want to do that? I'm telling you, I don't want to go do that. Can you at least give me enough gold so I can re-roll each piece of gear one time? Is that a thing? And I have a feeling I change my gear way less often than the average person. And I couldn't do it. At one point I was so poor I didn't have enough gold to remove a gem out of my jewelry. I didn't have enough to like remove it. I think it costs like 10,000 gold or something. I didn't have enough. Okay, so yeah, how much does it cost? Okay, it's pretty expensive. I better not do that. I'm poor. Anyway, I didn't have enough to remove a gem. Anyway, that's my feedback. Okay, here's another thing. This doesn't make sense to me. When I kill Elias to go to World Tier 4, He doesn't give me a Nightmare Dungeon key. Fine. I arrive in World Tier 4, and I want to go do Nightmare Dungeons. I went to do one Helltide. The Helltide, nowhere in the Helltide did it drop me either the Sigil powder to craft a Nightmare Dungeon key, nor did it drop me a Nightmare Dungeon key. Fine. So you go do Whispers, right? I went to do a Whisper and I turned it in, and it also didn't give me a Nightmare Dungeon key. So then I did another round of Whispers, and I barely had enough Sigil powder to make a single Nightmare Dungeon key. One World Tier 4 Nightmare Dungeon key. Okay, so here's my feedback. And by the way, several other people ran into this. I think you should allow us to begin Nightmare Dungeons once we reach World Tier 4 on a World Tier 4 difficulty. There are lots of ways you can solve this. One way is make Elias drop a World Tier 4 Nightmare Dungeon key, or give us enough Sigil powder, 50, to craft a single World Tier 4 Nightmare Dungeon key. Or if you don't want it to be automatic, fine. At least make a World Tier 4 Whisper turn-in possible to drop it. Or maybe you have a chance to have one drop out of the Helltide chest. I never got one. My point is it took me way too long to start Nightmare Dungeons. Now, what I could have done instead, a way around this, is I could have leveled in Nightmare Dungeons in World Tier 3, banked up enough Sigil powder to craft one when I got to World Tier 4 and did it that way. But now you're also kind of dictating how I have to play in World Tier 3. In World Tier 3, I wanted to do Helltide again, which again doesn't give you any way to complete this. And the only reason that I had a World Tier 3 Nightmare Dungeon key is because while I was doing Helltide, it completed a Whisper. So anyway, that's a long way of saying I would like it if we could begin Nightmare Dungeons in World Tier 4 easier than what you've had it, because the way that I currently had to do it was actually kind of frustrating. Okay, here's another thing, and this just has to do with the Blizzard engineers. We don't need to sit here and argue about how it works and how it doesn't work. Here's my feedback. A lot of people were very upset that it was commented on that the patch would preload. We could download the patch 1 hour before it started, and then that didn't happen. The patch came out exactly when the season came out, and a lot of people have slow internet or problems, and people were very, very upset that people with super fast connections got in instantly while they were just sitting there for half an hour, 45 an hour, and so far behind. If it's possible to have the patch preloaded or pre-downloaded or even a part of it ahead of time, in fact, if you could give us more than an hour, that would be greatly appreciated, because that was probably the only really sour moment in the entire process. Okay, so again, some people are going to be mad at me for saying this. That's fine, whatever. One thing that happened with all the changes in the game is the capstone bosses. They don't mean anything anymore. People are I saw someone killed Elias at, I think, 29, or not Elias, the first one, the Grim Reaper guy, whatever his name is. They killed him at 29. I killed Elias 15 levels lower than he was, and he died instantly. And so I could have went 20, 25 levels lower. So it's fine. It doesn't matter. You're making huge changes to the game. The capstone bosses, they're whatever, but they're not even bosses, man. They're just like, at this point, they're just like another trash mob in the dungeon. They're just a formality. So when we get everything nice and balanced, the capstone bosses might need a little bit of a redo, might need a little bit of a buff or something, because they're just completely pointless. I can't tell you how many people were just laughing. Oh, my Dust Devil Barb killed Elias in 2 hits. Oh, my minion, I didn't even see the boss and my minions killed him instantly. I heard that all day, and I had the same experience. One thing that is weird is when you're doing the season thing for the Iron Wolves. I was wondering if I should save my cash, so I was saving it. I turned it in a World Tier 4, and it was dropping me Sacred Gear. So just a point of feedback, I don't know if Blizzard was thinking about this, but at different moments in your progression, I actually, I guess, over leveled the caches, so they didn't give me like anything that was useful for me. So a lot of people were commenting on that. Should I save them? Should I spend them? I told everybody to spend them because I saved them and it did me no good. And by the time I opened them, they were useless. So and then I also understand, well, maybe you don't want to do that because if they're dynamic, then everyone just hoards them and the whole point is to open them. So I don't know what the solution is. Maybe you have the item drops be static and say, okay, this is regular gear, this is sacred gear, this is ancestral gear. So you just open it. I don't know, something. People were upset that they saved it, they opened it at World Tier 4, and a bunch of sacred gear popped out. It happened to me. I wasn't upset about it, whatever. But there's the feedback for you. Here's another thing that shouldn't be happening. I just don't understand. I think you just got to remove this from the game unless you have some future plan for it. In World Tier 4, I keep getting blues and whites. Why? Why do those even drop? Those aren't even good for like salvaging. So don't know why that's happening. I would like it if those were removed. Another complaint, I mean, I would still say it's better than Season 3. People were complaining, obviously, that the breadth of the Season 4 theme is much smaller than normal. That's fine. You're doing a massive rework. You don't have time to make a huge season theme on top of it. That's fine. The season theme is fine. It's got some cool elixirs. You help some people. The rewards are actually further along. They're actually pretty decent. But this small of a season theme was very disappointing for some people, and actually was just a deal breaker for some people entirely. Another thing, I mean, this is pretty obvious, but one aspect that I think is just really, really missing from Diablo 4 is just leaderboards, like all different kinds of leaderboards, like the race to 100, the first to kill the bosses, this or I mean anything. Like there's a bunch of people interested in the first day, like what are people doing, da 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 da, and everyone is just genuinely confused that there's no organized events. There's nowhere you can check your progress against anybody. There's no leaderboard for the pit, the new endgame system. Like I understand, like Diablo 4 is a more casual game. It's more relaxed. I understand that, but there are still players in the community that are very interested in, oh, I think I'm doing pretty good. I have my level 60 sorcerer. Let me check the leaderboard. Oh yeah, I'm 294th in the world and I'm 68th in NA. Hell yeah. I'm going to keep blasting. I don't know, man. I feel like not having this in here it just feels weirder and weirder the further we go on. It's like not feeling better at all. I don't know. I wish that was a part of the game. I wish there was more to it than nothing. Here's some feedback again. Not the biggest deal, and this kind of coincides with kind of yellows. So let's talk about yellows for a second. Yellows used to be all that you looked at. You'd run one nightmare dungeon. The whole inventory is full of yellows, and you have to look through every single one if you want to get good gear. People get really upset with that. They just quit the game. And the people that do blast the game find ways to like filter out the yellows. Like, oh, I'm only going to look at the yellow if it's 925 and it drops off of Duriel or the world boss. Okay. And now yellows are worthless in the end game. You just salvage them. And Blizzard has stated later on they're going to have a purpose. They've been thinking about it. They know what they're going to do, but they're going to implement it later. That's fine. Right now, although it is a big improvement, I still feel like too many items are dropping. So when it got to the point when I was about level 85, I just start running by the yellows, man. I just don't pick them up anymore. And they're dropping pretty often. If I pick them all up, I'm going to have to go back to the town to hit the salvage button. And I know, like, maybe it was a worry because people were saying that your veiled crystals get really low. Well, this is me skipping all the yellows, and I got 4,400 veiled crystals. I still don't think it's calculated correctly. I would rather get 2 times the veiled crystals for every single yellow that's ancestral, and you divide the number of yellow drops by like 3 or 4. And then so we might get a little bit of reduction in our veiled crystals, but the amount of garbage that would drop that we're just literally just going back to selling would go down. Another thing you could do for now is you could just instead drop less yellows and drop more veiled crystals until you have your yellow solution. Now, again, Blizzard has more information than me. I don't know what they're going to do or when they're going to do it, but if it's not going to be soon, I would like to see less items drop, especially those stupid yellows and the grays and the blues. Why are those even there? We already talked about that. This might be a personal thing. A lot of people seem to agree with me. Again, this is a minor thing, but I'm still going to say it. When you initially released greater affixes, they had the Roman numerals, and they had no way to indicate whether something was a greater affix in your inventory. Okay, so now you changed it. Now, when it drops, it has this little thing on the side, and when you pick it up, compared to a bunch of items that aren't greater affixes, you are able to identify it. Functionally, it does work. I can tell fairly easily, this is the one with the greater affix, and the other 4 don't have it. That's fine. My feedback is I don't like it. I don't like the way that this is. Like, I don't think this looks good. I don't like it. The fact that it's like the same color. Like, I would like it to be like way more obvious. Like, this is a red border, or this symbol when you're fighting in a narrow corridor, like in Shirako Caverns, you're fighting all the spiders. There's explosions going on everywhere. You're doing an event, and you see these boots drop. Do you think you're going to see this little thing on the side? Never. Never. But if it was a different beam, you would have a much higher chance of seeing it. So I would say it works for now, and I guess it doesn't really matter because they mail it to you even if you do miss it. But this is really not my favorite solution. I hope the design team can maybe try again and do something better. I just really don't like that, man, to be honest. Here's another thing. Okay, when you're tempering, you did something better, but I just don't think it works at all. We need something different. So here's what happens. You go over here and you're going to temper something. All right. So I'm going to temper, I don't know, this. Okay. So when you're doing it and you're switching it, and I'm going to brick my own boots, but actually they have a garbage temper. Let's go with it. Okay. So when I do this, there is going to be a skip button that I have to hit every single time. Here, I have to skip it, and then it's done, and now I'm done. You have to do that every single time for every single piece. Even if you're re-rolling it, skip. This, even the people at Blizzard must agree with me that this is not the solution. What I need you to do is I need you to go in here into options and into gameplay, and I need you to give me a checkbox that says always skip tempering animations. Always skip them. And I think that's what we need. Something like that. I don't want to hit skip on every item that I temper for the rest of my life. Please. I think we need that, please. Another piece of feedback, which I can illustrate very well, and I think Maxroll said this. Okay, this is a bad example. I don't know where these came. Oh, because I fought a world boss. These are extremely rare. In my entire 1 to 100 playthrough, I only found 2 of them. Now, they usually drop off of world bosses, which is why I have 4 of them, because I killed a world boss after I was level 100. So I guess it's an incentive to go kill the world bosses.
But the other places that you can get this are they're so insanely rare that I look at my amulet. Look at my ring. This is my amulet and this is my ring. They don't even have sockets in them because these are so insanely rare. So again, it's kind of like the gold comment. Don't make them drop like candy. I don't need 50 of them because then they don't have any value. But you drop me two, 0 to 100. I think 2 is a little steep because look at my pants, look at my helmet, look at my ring, look at my amulet, look at my weapon. Look how many sockets I was missing on purpose because I never had any scattered prisms. And when I would find one, I would be sitting there thinking, God, these are so rare. Do I really want to waste it on this weapon? No, I better save it. If I'm feeling that way, how do the casual players feel? So again, I'm asking for a little bit of an increase. They don't need to drop like candy, but I got 2, 0 to 100. This doesn't apply to me because I'm in hardcore, but someone chat wanted me to reiterate, is the death respawn points when they die doing nightmare dungeons, like they get like most of the way through a dungeon and then it sends them back to the beginning. The checkpoints need to be a lot better so you aren't running through the whole dungeon like a dumbass. World bosses, kind of similar to, this has been feedback for a while, but I just want to reiterate it. World bosses similar to kind of the capstone bosses. You just go there. I was standing there with like, I was level 100, but all the other necros were like level 60 at a world tier 4 boss. The boss is level 90, by the way. We're standing there. The boss spawns, dies instantly. I'm just like, I mean, they're just loot pinatas. And that's fine. That's not like the biggest problem in the world, but they are loot pinata. You don't do anything. So it would be cool if it was, I don't know, a little bit of a fight or something, but it's currently absolutely nothing. One thing that I've talked about, again, it's kind of hard to notice this because minions are so powerful, but I spoke about this in my last video, and I believe it was Adam Jackson. I believe he said something to the effect of, Blizzard is aware that Minion AI is not perfect and there is room to improve it. So that made me feel better. But these guys do some very, very dumb things all the time. So the golem, for example, in an event will just be kind of standing around and not doing anything. I wish they were much more aggressive or attentive or active or just participated more. Weird things happen when you grab a conduit pylon. Sometimes I've seen my minions completely disappear. I've seen them follow me for a little bit and then stop following me. I've seen like half of them follow me the whole way and they're fighting. That's a very, very bizarre behavior. So Blizzard's going to have to test it. Go into a dungeon, grab a conduit pylon with your minions and jump around with it. Go pretty far and watch what the minions do. It's very weird. And then another huge problem with minions is when you're going through very compartmentalized dungeons, your minions will get stuck in the doorways or stuck in a previous room and they don't understand what's going on and they don't know how to path forward to where you're fighting. So like I'd be walking through a dungeon, I'd walk through a narrow door, there'd be a little bit of a fight here. 2 of my skeletons would walk through. The other, I don't know, the golem and all the rest of them are in the other room and I'm getting hurt badly and I'm expecting my minions to not only do damage, but get in there and, I don't know, take some hits for me, but it's just 2 of my skeletons with me. And it doesn't fix itself usually until I walk out of the room and go back and try to completely reset it. So there's lots of different ways for Minion AI to get better. And this is like a common theme that I see across all ARPGs. It must be really hard to code Minion AI because a lot of the minions I see are just so dumb. But I would really, really appreciate it if Blizzard would take a very close look at not just the Necro Minions, all of these companions, anything like this in the game, and see exactly how did you code, how do they engage, how do they stay engaged, how do they move through things, and if you can find optimizations, believe me, I will notice it if you put it in the patch notes and put it in the game. The final thing I want to say, like, I never want to let go of this idea, so I'm just going to keep reiterating it.
I've definitely come to terms with the fact that Diablo 4 is not a game for people that just want to like no life the game, right? They want it to be very accessible to reach a wide audience, and in order to do that, some of the systems need to be, you know, pretty easy to use, right? But one thing that I don't think we can ever get away from is the idea that in order for Diablo 4 to thrive now and in the future, we need to constantly be thinking about and updating the end game, especially because you changed what the end game even means. The original definition of an end game, this is from per Blizzard, a quote from Blizzard, was the 50 to 100 grind and then trying to kill Uber Lilith and trying to clear Nightmare Dungeon 100. Now they have made 1 to 100 very accessible. Here I am 12 hours in. I'm 100. People were doing it. So many people spamming that they're doing it faster than they've ever done it before by a lot. So getting to 100, you will have a comfortable journey up to there. And then kind of, if you want to keep playing, that's when the real game kind of begins. It's fine. The beginning part is fine with the pit and the master working, but the number one feedback, again, more important than anything else that I said, we need to keep expanding that if you want people to play Diablo 4 for an extended period of time when these seasons reset. I heard Joe Pipora, I'm going to paraphrase here, I had the exact quote, in Riker's interview say that there are new and exciting things exclusive to Diablo 4 coming in the future that we can look forward to. I wanted to ask him a follow-up in my interview of what exactly did that mean, and are they maybe going to innovate in some way, innovate some kind of that endgame activity that we could look forward to, because that is exactly what I am dying for, something like that. So superseding anything that I've said before, please keep working on the end game so we have more things to do after we've had this nice comfortable journey, which admittedly it wasn't too bad. Like you weren't really challenged too much except for when you go to world tier 3 and world tier 4 when you're really low level. Other than that, it's pretty smooth sailing. But I would be lying to you if it didn't feel pretty good. What is this minion doing? Look at this minion. What is going on here? It did feel pretty good. It was nice and comfy, and there is something nice about that, you know. So it's not all bad. It's not like, oh, the game's too easy or whatever. But I always want to have things to do in this game. If you keep adding end game systems that are fun and interesting and rewarding, I will play this game more, and I bet other people will too. All right. Anyway, that's it, guys. That's my take on the state of Diablo 4 right now. In my opinion, this is the best state that the game has ever been in. If Diablo 4 had launched like this, with the resistances fixed, with the armor fixed, with the items fixed, with search functions. By the way, another thing that got pseudo fixed, stash space. Look at my stash. I'm level 100. Check out my stash. This is one tab. I'm keeping greater affixes and uniques. This is just some elixirs. I can buy, 4 more tabs? That's never happened to me before, ever. That also got fixed. Anyway, if the game had released like this with an endgame system, the leveling system's a little bit more polished, less bugs, I think people's ratings of the game would have been a lot higher. So I give Blizzard credit. They got a lot of shit in the last year for a million different things. Some of it deservedly so. I mean, maybe a lot of it deservedly so. The game was not in a great spot. I truly feel like this game is worth playing now. I feel confident in saying if you installed this game and played it, you would have fun, especially if you played a Minion Necro. And I think they're trending in the right direction, and they've got a lot of good ideas. And it finally looks like the game has somewhat of an identity. They said, you're going to level 1 to 100. Fine. We redid items. And then that's when the end game starts. And this is the end game system we have. And this is the end game crafting system we have. And we'll add more later. Okay. Well, at least that's what you delivered to me. Because a lot of the other times it felt like Diablo 4 was always having this identity crisis. This felt more cohesive. It felt like the team got together, got kind of on the same page, and built something. So it seems to be reflected in what I played through today. Anyway, I'm going to stop talking now. That's my opinion. I'm always interested, and I will read every comment. What did you guys think? Do you agree with me, or am I just full of shit and Diablo 4 is still bad? Thanks for watching, guys, and we'll be making a lot more videos about Diablo and the other ARPGs, hopefully for a long time. Thank you.